What up, basketball world? Welcome back to the Made Hoops podcast. I am your host, Austin Smith, and we're back again for another weekly episode. Thank you all for rocking strong with us the past couple episodes, man. We've had a good time just talking hoops, bringing you all the Made Hoops brand, and also having some special guests. So we got another one in the building with us today. We've got a very, very intricate piece in the basketball community, man, a guy who's definitely made his impact, inspiring the next generation of athletes that you're currently seeing on TV, and this man being a part of some of the biggest travel basketball programs and brands around. So let's talk with my guy, Mr. Kenny Johnson. And currently Kenny is the head coach at the National Christian Academy in Maryland, but he's also had an impressive resume being a former associate head coach at Louisville and at Indiana University. So Kenny, man, we're glad to have you on the show today, brother. Talk to us, man. How you feeling today?
No, I appreciate it, man. It's always a great time to join you guys. I mean, obviously, the impact you've made nationwide has been noted. And so, anytime I have an opportunity to come on and join this platform and speak to the people, I appreciate it. You know.
No doubt. Well, we appreciate you for hopping on with us, man. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Obviously, one of the biggest things that stood out from me to you, Kenny, was in doing research in your profile, was clearly your impact with Team Takeover. And if you're familiar with the AAU basketball scene, you know that Team Takeover is a brand and an organization that is here to stay. Talk to us about your days as an assistant director at Team Takeover. You know, what role did you have in the success of the program that we see currently?
You know, honestly, those guys are my brothers. I mean, being able to join up with Keith Stevens and and the guys, the founders, the original members of the group, and to see our plan come to fruition is truly a blessing. You know, we started off. I always like to say it's the third best program in the area. You know, the Blue Devils. We had a healthy respect for what the DC Blue Devils had accomplished and what DC Assault had accomplished, and we wanted to try to emulate a lot of their positives and eliminate some of the, or tweak some of the things that we wanted to do to impact and establish ourselves with longevity. I think one of the biggest challenges with the whole travel youth basketball scene is having longevity, right? And sticking to your core values. And I think that under the leadership of Keith, the program has been able to sustain that and moving forward. I love the structure, all the way down to the youngest ages possible. Those guys do a great job of coaching, especially the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teams. And then transitioning, once the spring starts to the 15s, 16s, and 17s. And I think it's proven that those players are getting better, they're developing, they're learning the game. It's just been enjoyable to watch, to see it grow.
I love it. Coach, talk to us about some of the notable players that have come through the Team Takeover program. If basketball heads and basketball fanatics, they may know, but to the newest up-and-coming middle school player who may be watching this, or a parent or even a fan, tell us about some of the players that have made their impact felt at Team Takeover.
Man, you're getting me in trouble, man. There's so many great players that come to mind, but I think some of the ones maybe recently we've heard of, you have Victor Oladipo, Jerry and Grant. James Robinson, who was at Pitt, Eric Green, who was at Virginia Tech, Chris Braswell, Jeff Allen, Maurice Creek, some of our founding members, Jeff Jones, and now recently in college basketball, you have Jeremy Roach and Trevor Kills. You have Luca Garza, Player of the Year. Josh Hart, who's now, I believe, with Portland. I mean, there's so many guys throughout the league. Apologize for those I missed, man, but we could go through probably 200 names of people that are near and dear to my heart, people that have, put their blood, sweat, and tears into helping this program be successful.
No, that track record speaks for itself. And again, over at least 50 to 100 players that have been able to just go from y'all's organization to now having a chance to play in college or playing in college and then having that chance to play in the pro. So it speaks to not only your impact on the organization, but the development that you guys have had. What's your favorite Team Takeover memory with all those guys? Is there one in particular that I was like, man?
For me, there definitely is. There definitely is, because we transitioned from triple threat AAU organization to Team Takeover.
Okay.
And, that first year we had an opportunity. I had a team on 16 under team I was the 16 under coach as well as assistant director, and we made it to the semifinals of Peace Jam. And two of my point guards, my starting point guard and my backup point guard, both had to leave and go back for summer school.
Okay.
So that team ended up being 56-3 on the year. All 3 games that were missing our starting point guard, which is James Robinson. But we were able to go to, at that time, Super Showcase in Orlando was still going. And there was, the child abuse laws weren't as they are now. So we were playing about 9 games in probably 6 days or something, 5 days, and just getting in there. It was like 1 game a day for the first group. And then after that, it was survival of the fittest.
Right.
3-4 games in a day. It didn't matter. Blood, sweat, tears, figure it out. And we were able to win our championship on 16 under first. So they give you this big glass bowl. And then the next day, our 17s were playing in the championship. So, unbeknownst to them, we brought our bowl to the game. And we were just waiting for that time to click down when they won their championship. And they were just out there in their court with both our bowls celebrating. And it was like the culmination of a 5-year journey to get to that point, to be able to, operate without sponsorship, but still be able to travel across the country, compete at a high level, to finally gaining sponsorship, and being able to have those players who were the foundation of what we were doing, be able to have that experience. A lot of those guys for the last time, obviously being on 17s, be able to celebrate that the right way going out. I mean, it's just something that you can't forget.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. And like you said, you talked about before the child abuse laws. People don't realize, man, like back in the day, just as early as about 10 years ago, man, it was, listen, you were playing all day when you kept winning. I mean, it was like that. It was crazy. But again, that speaks to the grit and resiliency that you guys built within the culture over there, man. And so that's pretty awesome.
We play hard. I mean, one thing about our program, right, you still see it to this day. I mean, you're going to be coached hard and you're going to play hard. So, the reward for giving your all for 32 minutes, full court man-to-man defense, is the opportunity to do it again for another 32 minutes, full court man-to-man defense. So you're running that back 5 times in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's a task in itself.
Nah, for sure. Absolutely. Coach, you made an interesting jump, man. And your story is pretty awesome. You've gone from the travel ball level to the high school levels, and then coaching at the highest level in college. What worked for you in terms of making those jumps and transitions, and how were you able to go from kind of the entry level all the way to a high level college position?
I always attribute it to relationships. I think that the success that I've been able to experience in my career is totally based off of the relationships I've been able to establish. I mean, nobody in this business especially does anything on their own. I think having genuine relationships at that. So being able to have an understanding of how to help my individual players be college eligible is one thing, but being able to have a grasp on all of the top players from the 5 bordering states, from New York through North Carolina. I knew a college coach could call me and ask me my thoughts on a given guy, and I can give them information.
Right.
Then having the ability to compete while the game's going on, but then being in support of those programs and those players that you're competing with once the game ends, I think was important as well. And I think a lot of people that ended up ultimately being a benefit to me and a resource for me, and having genuine relationships with me when I became a college coach, started when I was an AAU coach. I was able to compete hard, but I was able to communicate and help them. They were able to communicate and help me. And those relationships led to, hey, I see you're at Indiana, I see you at Towson, I see you at Louisville. I have this guy you may be interested in. Or I could call them, knowing who you can't recruit is almost as important as knowing who you can recruit. Like, I know you're at Towson, you're my guy, but he's going high major. Okay.
Got you.
No love lost. All right. I know you're at Louisville, but the family dream school is Duke. Okay. No love lost. So it at least allows you to kind of save time. I always call it working smarter rather than harder. And then having enough humility to understand that although I feel like I know a little bit about like coaching and recruiting, when I go and work for somebody, I know that I'm working for that individual person. So I need to understand what their style of play is, what they're looking for, what they identify as being a good player. So one key phrase I like to use all the time is like, who you know can get you in the door, but what you know will keep you there. So when I was an AAU coach and you're recruiting, when I'm a high school coach at Paul VI and you're recruiting in the WCAC, um, you're on the phone all day long. You're in gyms all day long. You're evaluating talent all day long. You have to trust your eyes and your instinct. So being there, being able to trust my eyes and my instincts has allowed me to identify players that maybe were diamonds in the rough or a little rough around the edges or people that may be bypassed by some of my competitors because they maybe need a little bit more work than others. Right. That's helped me out. And then my relationships, guys that are, in my mind, some of the greatest coaches in the world. Some of the best coaches that I've ever known have been AAU coaches who may not have aspirations to go and coach in college, or even high school coaches who are comfortable in their position where they don't feel like they need to make that jump. I mean, these guys are, if a college coach is coaching, if you're lucky, you're winning championships maybe 30 to 35 games a year, right? AAU, especially when the child laws weren't what they are, right? You're coaching 70 games in a summer. So your time and score, your ability to, have to realize what to do in critical situations, you may have that 5 times in a weekend.
Right.
The game could be coming down to the wire. So you end up picking up a lot of little tidbits, when to sub offense, defense, when to call a timeout, when to, you pick up a lot of things over the course of time. And I think that all becomes a part of your wisdom and what you know, right? But you do need a break. You do need to know, you do need someone to help you kick the door in. You do need, or you have to generate, and the last thing I'll leave you with, you have to generate the most important thing. You have relationships, but you have to have relevance. That's where the humility kicks in. Why should somebody hire you? There's millions upon millions of people out here who love to be basketball coaches. Like, why should someone hire you?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times people shy away from being known as a recruiter. Well, if I'm a head coach, I get a new job. The best chef in the world is still going to need the ingredients to make the meal. Right. So they're going to need somebody who's going to be able to bring in the ingredients to make that great meal, which is that team, which is hopefully going to be successful on the basketball court. So being known as a recruiter is not a bad thing because it's a necessary tool to any program. They always say recruiting is the lifeblood of any program, right? And then once you get the players there, you have to be able to do something with them, but you got to have the players there. So your relevance is, I am so significant in my general area or in my general surrounding area, right? And I have relationships. So if you kind of have to hire me, be so good at your job and what you're doing that people have to come searching for you as opposed to you having to search for them.
See, that's some real life advice right there that these players can take and utilize as they progress in their careers. Now that's good stuff. One thing you just touched on too is you talked about, being one of the best in the area, but I want to talk about your area for a second, Coach. Growing up in the DMV, does that area have the best grassroots talent nationally? Like,
absolutely. And you can add me.
Okay.
At National Christian MBB, DM me if you got something to say about it. It is from top to bottom. I mean, the guys work. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of talent that they have here. Yeah. So much so that if you look at, the teams in the NIBC, they come to DC, they come to Baltimore, they're coming to get them, and they are providing depth or they're providing star, players for those particular teams. I mean, it's just a strong basketball area. It truly is from top to bottom. I think we have tremendous coaches. I mean, these dudes live, eat, sleep basketball, and they're at it and they're competitive. So much to the so point it's hard to get them to work together. You know what I mean? But people are truly competitive. I think the proof is in the pudding. The number of pros that we produce, but forget the pros. The number of college basketball players that you produce. And it's remarkable because this area doesn't have a ton of schools to even recruit these players, these high school players. So, but people know, if you look at how many assistant coaches that are in college basketball that came from the DC area, you know, college coaches realize you have to have someone from DC to be able to help recruit those DC players. It just helps you out at the end of the day.
No, facts. That's absolutely true. Yeah, I've been following the DMV some time from Atlanta, man. So me following the DMV has been a big
Atlanta
thing.
has some great players. I love Atlanta.
No, but look, I listen. I'm a fan of basketball, whatever. But obviously, the DMV. When you talk about guys that have come there, KD, one of our guys is Quinn Cook. Like there's so many players that you can list and name that you can be on and on for days. But all right, we're gonna have them at you, Coach. We're gonna have everybody at you.
Anytime we can talk about.
No doubt about it. Coach, let me ask you this. You mentioned, and obviously with your bio, you've been at some incredible schools, man, having an opportunity to coach. I got to ask you, though, like what 3 or 5 players really were some of the best that you've coached at the college level? If you can even give me 3 without nobody trying to chop your head off.
I absolutely can. They'll be mad at me, but I'm going to go with the people that I think about, that I tell the most stories about.
Okay.
I love Terry Rozier. Absolutely love Terry Rozier. I remember the day that I came to the University of Louisville, and it was coming off of watching Victor Oladipo, so you can add him as the second one, right? Got it. Because these guys had a purpose and a mission every single day that I was around them. They just did. Right. So after watching Victor go number 2 overall in the draft the year before, not the year I went there, but the year before, and watching what he had to go through to get there. Right. You know, he wasn't thought of as, they thought he wasn't even going to start going into that junior season. Right. You know, we had Yogi Ferrell as a point guard, Jordan Holes as a 2 from Bloomington. Will Sheehy is a 6'6" small forward who's a natural size small forward. Christian Wofford, who had 6'9" with the big shot against Kentucky, and Cody Zeller, who was preseason player of the year. Victor wasn't supposed to start. He went from earning a starting role to being National Player of the Year and the number 2 overall draft pick. So, and every single day that he came to the gym, I'm talking about before practices, before coming to Indiana has this long tunnel that you walk through. Before practices, I noticed him take a moment to pray and thank God before every single practice, much less a game. Yeah. And he had that drive to get there. Wow. And that year, the Big Ten was loaded. You know, we were number 1 for 13 weeks in the season. And it was loaded, packed with talent. Yeah. And Victor wasn't an All-American coming into it. And we used to talk about it before the game. And I would say, man, you weren't even a Burger King All-American. And I would be able to look out at the court and say, but guess what? He was, and he can't hide from you right now. Right. So go get him. Go get him, right? So coming off of watching that, going to University of Louisville, now my antenna's up, right? I'm like, okay, who here is motivated? I know Montrezl Harrell came back an additional year. He's an absolute beast of a human being, grinded out tough guy. But I'm watching this April the 23rd, and I'm watching Terry Rozier. He had on an altitude mask, like an oxygen mask, one of those things you do when you're trying to make it more difficult to breathe, when you're trying to prepare for high altitude climates. Like if you say you were in Colorado or something where it's harder to breathe because of the oxygen level. And he's running, he has the clock in the gym by himself, and he's running lane touches. 3 minutes on the clock doing line touches. And he got to, I think he got to 28 or so with the mask on. And I'm like, and I'm telling the people who I don't really know, I said, what year is that kid? He said, oh, Terry's a sophomore. I said, okay, well, what's his potential? He said, oh, you know, he got a chance. Maybe, you know, go pro probably another year or 2. I said, he's going pro this year. And they're like, Terry? Nah, Terry not. He was played behind Russ Smith last year. I don't know. Terry's not going to be pro this year, I don't think. I said, well, somebody needs to tell him that, because it's April. He's in the gym by himself, running with the altitude mask on, doing line touches. He has a mission that he's about to go on right now that's going to be undeniable. So then in turn, watching him completely destroy practice all year long by just going through everybody and having the year that he had and the motivation that he had to get to where he needed to get to for his family.
Yeah.
For his family. His family needed the money, his sister. He just had a story. He had a why, a reason why. And to see somebody have a reason why and be able to fulfill that dream, something that you can't forget.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, listen, you talk about players like that. The one thing I've consistently seen from those guys, listen, like a Oladipo, like a Terry Rozier, like a Montrezl Harrell, like a Yogi Ferrell, Cody Zeller, any of those guys, that work ethic is a big thing that stands out. And that story about Terry Rozier doing like lane slides and line touches, like that's, for people out there, that's nothing to do with a basketball. That's not dribbling. That's just on in April. Now the season ends in March. Now April, you're doing those type of drills. So the proof is in the pudding always, man. And it just shows that time and time again, the players who are willing to put those extra hours into their craft, they're the ones that ultimately have success. And I'm not even surprised that you mentioned those group of guys, because that work ethic speaks from where they're playing right now and the careers that they've been blessed to have through the game.
I think everybody knows what Donovan Mitchell has done and
Absolutely.
how he's progressed and how far he's come. And I think he's a little bit more familiar. But I wanted to make sure people know, like, I think there was a Dwayne Wade with Tom Crean, and that kind of inspired a Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
Victor Oladipo was able to, the wisdom that I gained from him, I was able to help Terry with some things, some nuggets. And there's a Donovan Mitchell because of the ability to see a Dwayne Wade, a Victor Oladipo, and then trust the process of seeing directly what a Terry Rozier is able to do. And I think it just carries on down the line. It truly does.
Wow. Well, let's talk about currently for you, Coach. You've got a talented group right now at National Christian Academy. How's that transition been from you and helping to build this group of players with your team?
Basketball is my passion. Like, I realized a while ago that I believe it's to be my calling, to help people. I'm a scientist, molecular biologist, and geneticist by trade, but I had so much more fulfillment helping young men get scholarships and not have to repay the scholarships, right. Repay the student loans. That I felt like that was my passion. I felt like science was more of a job. This is more of a career for me. So, and this is where I started, the grassroots, being able to be involved. There is no limitation to the number of people that I can help.
Yeah.
While I'm in high school basketball.
Wow.
I can help literally hundreds upon hundreds of people get scholarships every single year. There is no issue. There is no issue. I can make phone calls. I can coach, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds. When I'm in college basketball, while I love it, I love the competition aspect of it. I could be considered an expert level coach. I'm not allowed to impart that wisdom to a high school athlete, to a middle school athlete, because it's perceived as a recruiting advantage. And I'm like, God didn't put us on earth to not fellowship and have a relationship and teach and give back. What's the point of me having this knowledge if I can't share it and give it back? So being back in the high school scene is giving me that outlet. I feel there's a fulfillment to it. Being able to just compete in a healthy way, but more importantly, be able to impart wisdom and help people grow. And to do it in an area that is truly oversaturated with talent, to be able to come in and still be able to mesh a group together and have the success that we had this year is truly a testament to my coaching staff, to the players who believed in the program, who chose us over other situations. So, it's just been an enjoyable process. We're on a climb. We're truly on a climb. I tell them all the time, and I think they can repeat it to a man, that our goal is to be known as the toughest basketball team in high school basketball. Now, while that's subjective, right, to opinion, I believe that if we are the tougher team each and every night, we're going to give ourselves the best, a good chance to win the game, from sheer toughness. But our ultimate goal, honestly, is we realize there's a mountain that we're trying to climb. We want to be able to climb the mountain that's in front of us so relentlessly that we eventually become that mountain that everybody else is trying to climb. So that's the mission that we're on right now. We want to get to the top. We want to remain at the top, and we want to take on challenges.
Well, those players have a free encyclopedia at their hands with the knowledge that you have from your past experience, and for them, man, it's like a huge advantage for them to be able to pick your brains and you be able to impact and influence them, their work ethic, their habits, their skill sets, their IQ, and those guys that are buying in. I know, man, you're not only grateful for it, but you enjoy that privilege, like you said, to be able to tap back in to the U market. And you've also done that with our Made Hoops camps, right? And that's a whole other area for you to even continue giving that free game and pass along to players. What's it like for you being able to be a part of our Made Hoops camps?
It's amazing. Like the guys who are running the Made Hoops, I mean, they're not only friends of mine, but of course, but their vision that they have, right? And the understanding of what's needed in this marketplace. I mean, these guys are the future. Made Hoops is the future, represents the future of basketball. You know, if you look at the history of the people that have attended this camp and that have come up and that have gone on, they're the future of basketball. Right. Like literally, not cliche, they're the future of basketball. Yeah. For you to be able to go to a Made Hoops camp as a young player, to get expert level coaching, compete against the best of the best, right, to be held accountable, to not only have it be about basketball, but be about your mental, your nutrition, you know, your academics, for parents to be able to be educated on what to do, what not to do. It's a comprehensive education packed into a weekend several times a year. It's something that I wish could happen all over the country every single weekend.
Every weekend, yeah.
You know, logistically, because it's like you complimented me and I appreciate it. You talk about the information I'm able to give, but the men that are there working at the camps with me, whether I'm there or not there, I mean, they're all experts in the field, right? You know, the coaches are able to provide information for the players that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, and they're going to look back on, hey man, I competed against that guy, I competed against this guy. Yep. It's no longer like I'm trying to. They with their AAU team, so they have a system set for. No, we roll the ball out. You're getting at it. You're doing your skills, your drills. You're going at it. You put this time. We're playing the game the right way. There's referees. You know, you're competing for championships. You know, it's something that matters. You know what I mean?
Nah, facts all day long. All right, so we got time for one more quick question, Coach. All right, so I'm let's say, for example, I'm a player who's attending one of these Made Hoops camps, right? And I want to make sure I leave a big impression. You being a former college coach, you working with high school and coaching high school players, what one or two things would you suggest I as a player, or to any player listening to the podcast, what one or two things would grab your attention and really allow them to do well at the Made Hoops camps coming up?
Truthfully, is what kind of character are you bringing to the table? Yeah. You know, what type of humility do you have? Right? Do you understand what your game is? You know, or are you going to come to a camp? If you come to the camp as a great defender, a great rebounder, are you coming to camp to show the world that you can shoot jump shots? Or are you coming to camp to show people that, you know what, not only am I a great defender and rebounder, I am the best defender and rebounder in the country.
That's good. That's
right?
Good.
If you are a playmaker, right, and you facilitate and you get the ball to people in the right spot,
right,
are you going to trust that you understand your game and understand your strengths and come to the camp to average 11 assists, if that's what it is, or 12 assists or 13 assists? Or are you going to come to the camp to show people that you can do everything else but be a playmaker? You know, so that's really what it's all about. Like having humility, leaving out of there, knowing what your strengths are and understanding how to work on your weaknesses, right? So that your weaknesses are now on par with everybody else's average skill set. You know, you want to work on your game, right? But you have to know what your game is. Yeah. Because as a college coach, if I know what my team is missing. If my team is missing shooting, I'm not going to go and recruit a guy who's an average shooter. So you're not going to shoot your way out of me thinking that you're an average shooter. If my livelihood, how I'm feeding my family depends on this person that I'm recruiting making shots, I'm going to go find the best shooter possible. Right. Now, I would love for that shooter to be able to defend a little bit, to handle the ball a little bit, to do a couple other things, right? But the first thing I'm looking for is who is the best shooter. And I'm going to see if I can teach them how to do those other things.
Yeah.
Right. If I need rebounding, who is the best rebounder? Then maybe I'll try to teach you how to handle the ball a little bit better, right? Maybe I'll get you a go-to move in the post here and there, right? Who's the best shot blocker? So you have to have humility in knowing who you are, to know who you are, right? Then you have to exhibit great character because things may not always be going your way. But I tell people all the time. So the best advice that I've gotten, I don't know where I got it from. I just picked it up somewhere from one of these great coaches that I was working with, is I want to be around people that I can both win with and lose with. Things are great. Things are great when you're winning.
That's good.
Right? Everybody's there. Everybody's clapping it up. 1, 2, 3 team. Everybody's right. We're locked in. Parents are happy. Crowd's happy. Administration's happy. What happens when you're on a 3-game losing streak?
Ooh.
Man. What happens? You're going to a team full of, you were Mr. Basketball in Maryland, and you're going to play with Mr. Basketball, who's the other Mr. Basketballs in 5 other states. Everybody wants to play. College basketball is a 40-minute game. Yeah. You got 5 spots. Very limited minutes.
Right.
Very limited minutes beyond you. We know for a fact as a college coach, there's really only one player, one family that's happy. The leading scorer, playing the most minutes on the team. The second lead scorer is wondering why the leading scorer is getting all the shots, right? So only you get to the 6th man. This is absolutely crazy. Where's the transfer portal at? I should be starting. So, and that could be fine. Everyone has their different situations, right? But what is the character of the individual? Are you able to stay focused, stay locked in, demonstrate that I'm going to be able to move on to the next play, last play, next play, or move on to the next game, right? Last game, next game, in any given situation, right? So you need to find out, and a camp is a great setting for it because there's no motivation. There is no overall leadership. Either you got it or you don't. You're coming there for the right reasons to perform or you don't. So camp basketball is not really camp basketball. Camp basketball is an indication of what type of motivation you truly have as an individual. Is your motivation come from a set of circumstances, or are you just truly a self-motivated person? That you're going to come and demonstrate your abilities. First off, know what your abilities are, right, and then be willing to put yourself out there and demonstrate your abilities under adverse conditions. Meaning, I don't know my teammates, I don't know my coaches, I don't know the environment, but this is what I do, it's who I am. I'm coming here and I'm going to show it to the whole world.
Coach, that's a lot of game in that one, man. That speaks volumes. And listen, like all players who listen to this, coaches, like go send this to players, rewind that back like 10 times. So you all can really get the gist of what coach is saying, man, because it just makes a big impact, not only just at our camps, but for that player's career down the line. When you talk about knowing your skill set, when you talk about your character, those are just things that down the line as players, you want to make sure you're placing a high significance on for your development and for your growth. So coach, man, thank you again for that wisdom. Listen, this episode was phenomenal. Like, I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Coach Kenny Johnson gave a lot of free game, a lot of insight to what it looks like to be a part of basketball at the highest level, and what it looks like to develop your game and help you get to that highest level as well. So again, everyone, I was joined today on this episode by Coach Kenny Johnson, who's currently the head coach at National Christian Academy in Maryland, but he was also a former associate head coach at Louisville and also an assistant coach at Indiana and a bunch of other great places as well, and big time influencer with the Team Takeover program, one of the most historic franchises, we can call them that, franchises in travel basketball. So Kenny, again to you, brother, thank you for your time today.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And everyone, thanks for tuning in for today's episode. Again, I am your Made Hoops host, Austin Smith. Keep rocking with us. Stay tuned in. We're going to bring you more and more of these incredible interviews with these incredible coaches, maybe some players down the line. So stay tuned with us. We'll see you all again on the next episode.